Did you think it was crazy to think these buildings were all bigger than you can see? Did you think they were just AI generated? Are you ready to have your mind blown? Call it what you want. Being at the right place at the right time? I don't believe in coincidences. We are being shown the truth, in my opinion. Are you ready to see something today that you can't find in a textbook? We will be getting to the Illinois State Capitol building today, so get ready. So today, I'm taking a trip to a lot of places. We're gonna be checking out some crazy stuff. Buildings that have wild stories, architecture that does not fit the mainstream timeline, and as always, a lot more. Let's begin with the Streeter Public Library, where we are told the construction began in 1902, and it just popped up January 31st, 1903, which again, we've definitely proven that in episode 41, using artificial intelligence, that this is logistically impossible, and now they are currently restoring it. At this point, restoration, in my eyes, means destruction and removal, especially when the landing in front of the murals are blocked off to the public, and the front entrance is closed to the general public. Let's set the tone for this episode. The murals have never been cleaned since they were supposedly installed in 1905, and here we go. And severe smoke damage occurred to the murals in 1945 when the library had a fire in the boiler room. All right, so we get the nod. We have a hidden restoration process by our incredibly advanced society. Joking, of course. And can we just look at this AI-generated name for a second? This is right in your face kind of stuff. What is the guy's name that supposedly painted the murals? I'm not even gonna say it, because if I do, well, you know what it would say. Once you have eyes to see, this kind of stuff just honestly is so in your face and childish. And we all know about how these incredible architects, painters, supervisors, and the rest are killed off immediately after the job is done, or right in the middle of it. So let's take a look at this together. The murals were done in 1905. What year do you think this guy dies in? Well, let's take a closer look. The project is done in 1905, and he's dead in 1905 in New York City? Interesting. By suicide. Now, of course, they care so much about our society that they will close the library down and paint over things that the public should not be seeing. Okay, so we have a very interesting story here, and I want to continue to our next building because we have a lot of cool stuff to see that gets even more in depth. Less than a mile away, we have the Logan County Courthouse. And this courthouse is also getting destroyed. I mean, renovated. Other iconic features of the Logan County Courthouse are the four-faced clocks and stained glass interior domes. So they are repainting the clocks. And as for the stained glass interior dome, it was removed a few years ago, of course. And once all the changes and destruction is done, oh, did I say destruction? I mean repairs, but yeah, destruction. It will be reinstalled, but we don't know when that will be, of course. Wow, okay. Now I'm going to prove another point right here. So there's always issues that come up in the world, right? There are time periods such as the Civil War, the Great Depressions, I don't know, freezing winters. Now, in current day construction, these are all real issues that we actually have to talk about and actually happen. But the 1800s, apparently, this was no problem. And the buildings always got done in like 9 months. Never an issue. So let's prove this point right here. In March 2020, Logan County got the money to repair the courthouse. However, 2020 brought its own challenges. Walters said repairs halted during this time period that we all just went through. Then he and his team were met with labor issues and increased material costs. This is honestly normal. This is what happens when constructing things. Things sometimes come up. Things happen that slow the process of construction down. How is it, though, that 200 years ago, this kind of stuff never happened? There was no construction issues. They never had a labor issue. They never had a shortage of construction workers. They never had weather issues or anything that would slow the process of construction down. Everything just worked out back then. Every time. Everywhere in the world. It amazes me that buildings in the 1800s, where they did not even have a road completed, were simply constructed in a year. Or less, with no issues. Yet our current civilization can't even restore it in a shorter amount of time than it took to construct the entire building 120 years ago. Does that make sense? No. Doctors call it weight cycling. Half of Americans do it. And if you do it enough, you are at risk of diabetes, liver damage, heart attacks, and strokes. Weight cycling is when you lose 10 or so pounds, but then you put it back on plus a couple more. That puts tremendous strain on your organs and leads to serious health issues. The bottom line, most people need help to stop weight cycling. And here's a great way. Non-prescription lean. It was created by doctors. Lean is an oral supplement, not a GLP injectable, and the science is impressive. Its studied ingredients also target weight loss in 3 powerful ways. Lean helps maintain healthy blood sugar. It helps control appetite and cravings. And it helps burn fat by converting it into energy. And burning fat also keeps the weight off. If you want to lose meaningful weight at a healthy pace and keep it off, add lean to your diet and exercise lifestyle. Get 20% off right now when you enter MLB at takelean.com. That's code MLB at takelean.com. It doesn't. This is a different building in Ohio, but I just want to show you what I'm talking about. The Logan County Courthouse in Ohio, because the AI can't come up with a new name for these buildings, it's so repetitive, but that's not the point here. This one was built in 1870, yet took our civilization 6 years to renovate it. In 1870, it was easy and they could just construct the entire thing so fast. No, it isn't possible for every single town in the 1800s to fully understand the construction process. Every single architect to be perfect, and no understanding of where these people were trained. What school did they go to? They were all incredible? At some point, you gotta question this. At some point, it doesn't make sense. And I think we're at that point. So they build these incredible buildings, they just throw them together in a year, and then they go home and live in a shed, suffering in the winters with bonnets. The narrative is insane. Oh, and remember, we showed that the University Hall, right down the street, was founded. Do we all want to take a guess what else was founded in 1839? 184 years ago? You got it. The Logan County Courthouse was also founded. Incredible. So we have a lot of founded things in this town. They give us this nice picture, even though it's fake and just a drawing. Now for the Illinois State Capitol building. At first, when we first got there, I was really upset that we had another old world building under construction. If you go back and watch my Boots on the Ground playlist, it's actually unbelievable how many times these buildings are under some sort of construction. It's reminding me a lot of the fire narratives, where if it's an old world building, they have to put some sort of construction machine next to the building. Repetition is a clue, and it means that you need to look closer into it. So yeah, I was upset at first about the construction, because we wouldn't be able to go inside or get up close to the building. Until I took my camera across the road and I couldn't believe my eyes. Call it what you want, but timing is everything. The old world exposed underground, showing us that these buildings are massive. So much bigger than we can see underground. And this hole right here in the side of the building looks like yet another tunnel entrance. Is this a tunnel that we just got on camera? If you're unsure, again, I'm gonna recommend it. After this episode, I suggest watching episode 42, Tunnels Below Our Feet. Did they just destroy a tunnel with this construction process? To me, that is exactly what it looks like. And I'd love to hear what your opinion is about the entrance to the lower part of the Capitol building in the comments below. I don't think that was something we were ever meant to see. If we were here any other time, we would have missed this. Now that we have this sort of thing on film, it breaks down the walls. And it's no longer a speculation. I think we just found a tunnel system that runs underneath Springfield, Illinois. And then we have this castle that is now owned by the state and repurposed into the Illinois State Military Museum. I've contacted a member of the staff for the building because they honestly have zero information about it anywhere. And they have not emailed me back, of course. The crazy thing about this place is that it's located right next to the Illinois State Capitol building and the Supreme Court clerk. The same one that the Illinois State Archive building held zero archives about. Incredible buildings, all right next to each other, which is normally the case. Once you find one of these buildings from the past civilization, there is normally so many more that are so out of place, all right next to each other. This changes everything about where we are. There's so many lies right in front of our face. How did we all just walk past these buildings for so many years and not think anything of it? That truth is so much more powerful than lies. And once you know the truth, you don't go back to walking past the old world buildings and thinking nothing of it. Now, exactly a half a mile away, on the dot, from the Illinois State Capitol building, we have the Union Station in Springfield. Now this part gets very interesting, as they're going to try to explain how the main source of transportation got here. And it's about to get really eye-opening, so get ready. On December 21st, 1907, a fire started. It started at the Johnston Hatcher building. It destroyed the eastern half of the 600 block on East Adams Street. So in my opinion, a ton of old world buildings gone to this planned demolition. Now for the best part of this paragraph. This will all tie in with the train station, but here we go. The fire stopped only when the blaze hit the Bessemer building, which was built to be fireproof. No, it wasn't. It was a failed attempt because that exact same building 40 years later was burned down by a fire. It's unbelievable. And to take it a step further, let's go even deeper. They are going to try and explain this away with some stupid lighting his pipe story. But that didn't work because he starts talking and said he didn't have a pipe or matches. So the officials had to jump in. And who are these trustworthy people? And because they tell the world that they are officials, whatever they say will be what happened, and everybody will believe it. They said a short circuit in the wiring beneath the window ignited the cotton after the pipe story didn't work out. So ridiculous. They had to make something up because he ran his mouth and called them out on their lie. They destroyed these buildings, in my opinion. And I say my opinion, but there's an overwhelming amount of evidence to support this. And of course, that wouldn't be the only evidence that I use. Let's go even deeper. To prove this point, firefighters were back at 7th and Adams on October 11th, 1913, so 6 years later, when another spectacular fire demolished the new Johnston Hatcher building. Once again, flames then swept west along the same half block of Adams Street. Although what do you know? The fire comes to a complete halt when it reaches the amazing Bessemer building that we already know does burn down. So obviously this was a planned demolition, a controlled one to be exact. This does not happen. There were obviously things in this town from the old world, a past civilization that they did not want us to see. And of course, they don't even try this time to explain how this fire started. But this 1913 fire is where we will tie in the Union Station, because this is where the fire destroyed it. And it's weird that they say there was an original. As you can see here, when we all know the so-called second Union Station was the original, and they demolished it. And here it says, it was subsequently rebuilt with a more modern design. A more modern design? Of course it was. Unbelievable. Let's please just take a look at this picture for a minute. We have dirt roads. I need everyone here to understand that in order to ride a horse and pull the wagon with hundreds of pounds of brick in the wagon, they would need a paved road. The wheels that they had would sink right into this dirt. The wheels were pathetic, especially if it was raining that week. And you know, sometimes it does rain. I know in the 1800s they want to pretend that there's never any rain or ever any snow, but there was. And this is just another example that will prove how incredible the tunnel systems from episode 42 are. They had incredible tunnels that were in every town, connecting all of these buildings together, which we've shown, with limestone walls. Yet they didn't have a road? They did have a road, in my opinion, and it's underneath all of this dirt. It's so backwards. And this is why we are questioning things. So this was their wheel. Good luck. Not gonna happen. In my opinion, this train station was here. Trains were here in the past civilization, and it was not thousands of years ago. It was very recent, and our history is a complete lie. We are told that the train was brand new within the last few hundred years, when in reality, it has been here time and time again. And this was the past civilization's train station. And this was the past civilization's town. And then it's no wonder it's Illinois' state capital now. It's incredible. And it was destroyed in 1907 and 1903. And wait, what is this? No, they had another fire in 1921? Are you kidding me? The fire destroyed the old world building. I mean, the 1920s building. Along with the cars, and of course, the Hatchers replaced the burned building with a smaller service facility and a car wash. I was also going to check out the Western Clock Manufacturing Company building, located in Peru, Illinois. Interesting name for a town. But that one was destroyed by a fire as well. On New Year's Day, 2012. Perfect timing for a clock company to burn down. New Year's Day, right on the dot. Destroying the old world with more fires. We all understand that brick and stone does not burn from a random house fire. These, in my opinion, are demolitions. So we have cowboys and Indians from 1865 to 1895. Cowboys and Indians. Yet we have massive construction projects going on all around the world, all over America. And at the same exact time, we have the Civil War, supposedly going on in 1861. Yet massive cathedrals were easily constructed in every city, everywhere. And no problem, it was easy. The mainstream narrative does not add up. We have the Montgomery County Courthouse in Illinois that was supposedly thrown together in less than 24 months, nearly 200 years ago. And then you have the Carnahan Courthouse, located in St. Louis, Missouri, the exact site of the 1904 World's Fair. There were 2 phases in the construction of this incredible building. The first phase began in 1929, and the building was done in 1930. Simple. Then the second phase of construction, which included the eastern half of the courthouse, began in 1935 and was done in 1937. Now, like we have mentioned, we have proven through AI ChatGPT that this narrative is impossible. Nobody was building these courthouse structures in 1 year, anywhere in the 1800s. And then you can call up the State Archives building yourself, which we did, and they will have 0 information on it. There is 0 mention of any construction company that was used in this project, because there was no construction company. It was from a past civilization, and they thought we would never ask, but we are. And it's completely destroying the mainstream narrative. The same lying narrative that has taken decades upon decades to work on, attempting to trick children year after year into thinking that this is the truth. But as soon as one of us hear the real truth, we are now interested, and we begin questioning the lies that have been told to us. And once you begin to question these lies about the mainstream narrative on these buildings, the lies never hold up, obviously. They make 0 sense, and we are never given all the details. The facts that would be necessary for us to trust the mainstream narrative. We would need so many more details, such as who was the construction company? Where did the materials come from? How many horses were used? How much water did the horses need? And how was that set up for them to be properly hydrated in the summer months? Were there places for the workers to stay so they could get up early and actually work on the construction and get the job done? How many men were used? Was there ever an issue with the construction process? And on and on and on. But this is about to get insane, and I have been waiting a while to show you all this. So you're definitely going to want to see this. Here we go. Now, the actual website says that it was built in 1828, saying it opened its first courthouse, not 1928 like we were previously told. In a book called Contemporary American Sculpture that was published in 1929, a year before the building was completed, it already listed that the building was done and of Rebeck's work. So was the narrator getting ahead of itself, thinking that nobody would catch that flaw? I believe so. And they have stories about freedom going on in the building in 1850. So the story is all over the place when you go from site to site. And this is when we know we're onto them. And then we dive deeper. And this is when we look around and find things that are insane and completely blow the narrative open. And that's exactly what we did. First of all, this looks like it's on the ground level, something we have seen so many times all around the world. Are there a lot more structures that have columns like this that are so much deeper and hidden by dirt underground? That's exactly what's going on, in my opinion. Now, as we zoom in on the top of this 386-foot high building, that is most likely even bigger than that, we will see 2 sphinx-like ornaments. They are 20 feet long, 11.5 feet high, which has a room underneath them. Hold on. What am I reading here? The griffins, with the aluminum of the roof, form a huge lightning conductor, which is connected with the grouch by concealed wires. Griffins, free energy, technology from the past civilization right in front of our faces. The sphinxes were given human faces instead of the lion's face, lion meaning griffin, in order to symbolize mercy, tempering justice. Sure. Yeah. And I really want you all to think about this one. Here we go. We have the pyramid on top of the building, just like in Giza. And in Giza, something is missing from the top of the pyramid. Did they remove the griffins? from the top of the Giza pyramid. And the faces on the griffins in St. Louis were changed from a lion to a man, exactly like the ones in Egypt. And these are griffin paws, in my opinion, were the sphinxes in Egypt, also generating power, just like these ones. And when you look at the $1 bill in the USA, it shows the all-seeing eye being removed from the top of the pyramids. Is this just symbolism for them removing the griffins and removing the previous civilization from our history? And were the ones in Egypt, just like the ones in St. Louis, Missouri, here on top of the courthouse building, actually griffins? I'm gonna come right out and say it. I think the Sphinx in Egypt was actually a griffin, and it's been defaced. And yes, I believe griffins were most likely removed from the top of the Giza pyramids. Identical to what we see in St. Louis. Was ancient Egypt not that ancient? We have even more to share about this incredible city, as well as this general location. I want to show you all something that is hidden under a layer of grass. And if we just removed the grass, we all know at this point what we would find. But how incredible is it? Let's find out today. And I want to show you all something massive, something that is sitting right in front of our faces and has been our entire lives, and in my opinion, for multiple civilizations, and won't be going anywhere anytime soon. And that is the 227-foot tall St. Louis Basilica, which has a seating capacity of 2,500 people. So let's take the camera and go inside this basilica and dive deep into this mainstream narrative today and expose the lies that have been somehow hidden for so many years. Now, if we want a true representation of the year 1907, supposedly the exact same year that this St. Louis Basilica construction began, then we need to see what was supposedly going on during this year. We are told that this was the panic of 1907, the first worldwide financial crisis of the 20th century, and also the perfect time to begin the 3 million, or converted into 2023, the $98.23 million project. It's actually the worst possible time to begin a project like this. This narrative is already sounding off, and when you find major flaws like this, we know that we have a green light to dig deeper. So let's begin with exposing the supposed architects, Barrett, Haynes, and Barrett. Reoccurring names, yet again, which we've seen so many times in so many episodes, which is just another giveaway that this name is AI generated. But let's continue. Let's see what this group was up to from 1907 to 1914. The exact same years that we were told that this basilica was built in. You would think that this incredible basilica, that none of us have ever seen anything close to this be constructed today, or at any point in our lifetimes, you would think that these architects would be fully focused on this specific building and making sure that it went perfect. They wouldn't be off building another building at the exact same time, would they? Well, they started 2 other projects at the exact same time as the St. Louis Basilica, because they were just that incredible. And not only that, during the exact same time period that they were supposedly building this massive structure that we've never seen built in our lifetimes, they were able to direct their attention to 4 other states and 13 other buildings, all during the financial crisis. Starting to sound off a little? Should we keep going? Let's do it. This was constructed, right? It wasn't? It wasn't founded in 1914. So we have another building that is found, and it's right in front of our faces. You do not find your house. You construct your house, and you build your house. If you need to go back and watch episode 35 for a reminder on the legal definition of the word founded, I suggest doing that after this episode. Here on the Basilica's website, we begin to find reoccurring words, and it gets really strange. The probability of this type of verbiage reoccurring in all of these narratives is mathematically impossible. Here we go. This is going to be another proof that the narrative is written and generated by the AI in the exact same sentence. We find a completely made-up story to attempt to trick us into thinking that it's a real event and giving it legs to stand on. Here we go. The altar was the gift of Mr. and Mrs. William Cullen McBride, whose daughter, Kathleen, would become the new cathedral's first bride. So in your face. The McBrides get the first bride. Of course they do. Now, remember, There was never any details on the actual construction process, because the construction never actually took place in this timeline. They do not explain how many men were used in the construction. This wasn't thousands of years ago. There should also be photographs of the building's construction. The camera was invented in 1816, so there should be something at this point, but there's nothing. Now, I'm sorry, but when you are spending the equivalent to nearly $100 million on a building, and it only takes 3 to 5 minutes to take a photograph in 1910, someone would have done it, somewhere in the world. The excuse that it would take too long and is an inconvenience is absolute nonsense and is a crutch to hold on to believing the mainstream lie. This was not thousands of years ago. This was relatively recent, and we do not have a single photograph of the construction process. It's a massive flaw in the mainstream narrative. Thomas P. Barnett was the architect for the St. Louis Basilica. His father, George I. Barnett, not a real photo, even though they had cameras in the 1800s, especially for supposedly famous people. Now, I'll tie this back in really quick here, but I want to show you all the repetition again and how obvious the lie is when you can see from this side of the board. So George finished his amazing training in England at the age of 16 and then trained with Thomas Hine. So we have another Thomas. Do we remember that his son is also Thomas? So 2 out of the 3 names are Thomas. And not only do we have this weird fact about George, but we also have this to prove my point that these are all fictional characters, especially anyone doing anything significant before 1850. They don't even know how old he was when he died because they don't give us his actual birth date. Remember, again, this is not 1,000 years ago. They know all about him when he was 16, but no clue when he was born. And these are the people that we are supposed to trust with our history. Now, are you ready to expose this thing and show how this is mathematically impossible? Are you ready to see how this is all scripted and, in my opinion, not real people? Here we go. There are 4 people involved in this story, and we are very deep right now into this. So just bear with me. 4 people. We have the father, George I. Barnett. We have his 2 sons, Thomas Barnett and George D. Barnett. And then we also have one more guy involved in this supposed architect firm, John I. Haynes, that are all connected in the weirdest way possible and proves that this is mathematically impossible and a total lie. So here we go. We have all 4 of these people right here, both Georges, Tom, and brother-in-law John. The father, George, was born in 1815 and died in 1898. The odds of him being born on December 29th, 30th, or 31st are 0.008%. So he died at the age of 82, since he most likely did not have his birthday yet in 1898. Now let's take a look at John Haynes, the son-in-law to George. He was born in 1860 and died in 1942. What are the odds that he also dies at the age of 82, just like George? And then we can take a look at both of George's sons. Let's start with George, the kid. He was born in 1863 and died in 1922. So he died at the age of 59. What are the odds that the other brother, Thomas, also dies at the age of 59? What are the odds that these 4 characters are all connected? Thomas P. Barnett, born February 11th, 1970, died September 23rd, 1929, at the age of 59. Can you see with open eyes now? Do you see how this is all here for us to find? All we have to do is look. These are characters. This building is not from our civilization. It is from a previous civilization, and we are being lied to about how it got here. There are clues within each one of these narratives. It is up to us to find them and expose them. And what are the odds that the exact same year that the St. Louis Basilica is found, the Barnett, Hayes, and Barnett Architects Company dissolves? What are the odds? You all know what I think about that. I want to point one more thing out about this narrative that I found, and you tell me what you think about this. On WikiTree, I found John Haynes, and we were told that he married into this Barnett family, with George being his father-in-law. We are told this multiple times, but when you go on WikiTree and we find this character, it starts to get even more strange, because it says that he was the husband to Harriet Haynes, which is obviously his last name, but let's click on her name. And what do you know? She is not related to George Barrett. Her family name originally being Hellery. Her dad was Henry Hellery, having zero relation to George Barrett. And this is the same John Haynes guy, being involved in the Barrett and Taylor firm as a draftsman. This is all proving that the narrative is a total fabrication. It is all over the place and shouldn't be trusted at all. When I am told one lie, I begin to question it. But when I am told an overwhelming amount of nonsense by the mainstream narrator, like we have been today, the narrator has lost my trust forever. This is not the first time. We have hours and hours of documented evidence showing that the mainstream narrative is not to be trusted at all. Here we have the Cahokia Mounds, which is only 10 miles away from St. Louis, but in my opinion, all connected to the past civilization. It's very clear that this specific location on the grid is of importance. In my opinion, these are all areas on the map that the Earth gives off a natural energy that is extremely powerful, that the past civilization was able to take advantage of. Do the so-called controllers of our current civilization know this and take advantage of this today? And it's weird, because you have pyramids all over the place. They're everywhere. Maybe not as big as the Monk's Pyramid, but there were a lot of them that have been destroyed in the last 100 years. This one is actually still here, which is exactly how our construction works today. It just lasts forever. Oh, it doesn't? No, it doesn't. And it's so weird just looking at these pictures. They look so out of place. And they look out of place because they are. And we know this here. But you look at the ground and it looks so fresh, like brand new topsoil that you buy from Home Depot. Like the grounds crew just got done raking it and getting it ready to be shown off to the public. It's honestly so weird. And what are these people doing? They don't even look real. Where are they walking to? They all look dressed up and just taking a stroll. My opinion is that those are Photoshop people. We have seen this kind of thing so many times, where they don't show any faces, and the people don't fit in with the picture. Exactly how the building, or in this case pyramid, doesn't fit in our timeline. This one was from Italy, and was allegedly built in 12 BC. Oh, in only 6 years. Because of course they know the exact start and finish dates of things from 2,000 years ago. But they don't know the exact same information from only 100 years ago. And we have shown this time and time again. Over 2,000 years ago? Yet Abe Lincoln was born in a shack? So yeah, I'm not buying that nonsense. Honestly, this is the kind of stuff that gives it all away. And why we are questioning the mainstream nonsense. They can build a pyramid 2,000 years ago. And then our civilization is brainwashed and is supposed to believe that we have evolved so much after 1,800 years that we are now being born in sheds. I can't speak for everyone, but I am not going to sit here and just accept that. As I walked around this site, it is 2,200 acres. So it's obviously massive. And this story that they're going to try and tell us is nonsense. There is the Monk's Mound, which is the main one. And I say mound, but I really mean pyramid. And I'm going to call it the Monk's Pyramid from now on. This is no random mound of dirt. And this is very clear. Yet they brushed it off as a mound in its title. None of these are mounds. They're all pyramids, and they're all connected. Monk's Pyramid is 100 feet high, 955 feet long, and 775 feet wide, making it the same size at its base as the Great Pyramid of Giza, right here next to St. Louis. Let's continue on to this paragraph. The perimeter of its base is larger than the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan. All right, so we have something massive and extremely important here, covered by a layer of dirt and grass. If the layer of grass was removed and exposed what is really under it, the entire USA narrative would be completely shredded and thrown in the garbage, as it should be. People would be so confused why there's a massive pyramid and other pyramids connected to each other. It's a 2,200 acre site. Construction of the Monk's Pyramid began about 1,123 years ago, so they say, on a site that has already been occupied by buildings. Already had buildings? I'm sorry, what? In the year 900, they already had buildings? So at the same time, over in Italy, we have the St. Mark's Basilica being built, in a time period before they even knew how to make paper, supposedly. So Italy is building this, and then we have massive pyramids and buildings being built in the USA. by the Mississippian culture, which is completely ridiculous. Because if they can build massive pyramids, then they can build a better hut than this to live in. The narrative is contradicting itself, because 850 years later, we get cowboys and Indians, and everyone is freezing in the winters in their shed. And so we're on the same page. The St. Mark's Basilica and these pyramids were built in the year 850 to 900, supposedly. And then we have all kinds of basilicas and massive structures being constructed for centuries in this ridiculous timeline that we're given. And then once 1900 hits, we are no longer able to construct the St. Mark's Basilica, or a Cologne Cathedral, or a Milan Cathedral. It is very clear that there was a reset, and our timeline is a complete fabrication, in my opinion. Now, if you're on the fence, this should help bring you over. If this was a narrative that you would stand by, blindly accepting no matter what, I think this is the time to reconsider. Since you would be backing up a mainstream narrative theory that is, by admission, a theory and not at all proven, botanical or a substance from a plant that they found that remains from the Monk Pyramid, suggests it was built much more quickly than previously thought, suggests, perhaps, maybe, on the order of several consecutive decades, but we don't know. It might be, providing an alternative view of its construction history. And there we have it. The mainstream narrative cannot explain these structures because they don't fit into the mainstream timeline. A much more logical explanation is that the previous civilization was here, an extremely advanced civilization. Should we blow this narrative away? Should we expose it and show that they are not being truthful with us? Should we show that it's not from 1,000 years ago? Let's do it. Thomas I. Ramey, who bought the site in 1864, of course. As soon as the 1800s hit, like we talked about, this is when they had to figure out the narrative, and this site was not fitting in. They tell us that an era of more responsible ownership began. What a joke. Many artifacts were found at or near the surface. Really? Finding the old world's things and removing them so that we don't see. Very interesting. So there were things here in the 1800s that would have been important for our research. Ramey had a tunnel made, or did he locate one? After everything we have seen, even in the last 5 episodes, do you think this guy made a tunnel, or do you think he found one? And of course, they brush it off and say that the tunnel revealed nothing of historic interest. I'm sorry, but the first time I read that, I laughed out loud. Could this be any more in your face and right on point with what we are talking about? Tunnels, removing things from the site, all once our new civilization's timeline hits. Not in the 1400s or 1600s, no. Right when the mid-1800s hit, this all takes place. Incredible. And if you thought I was crazy, thinking that removing the dirt would expose the past civilization's work, let me show you what I'm talking about, and exactly why they keep this thing covered up with grass and dirt. In 1970, they adopted an incredible strategy, one that only a genius would ever think to do, scraping away the topsoil. Unbelievable. They dug down 2 feet, and this quickly revealed various features, including what appeared to be the outline of the temple. 2 feet under the dirt, we have a temple. We have something unbelievable. This is not a mound. This is a pyramid. And I'm sure the architecture is insane and unexplainable in this make-believe mainstream narrative timeline, which is why it's covered up with dirt and grass, as well as the rest of the 2,200 acres of pyramids. This technique was, of course, opposed by professional archaeologists. So they stopped because they found too much and would shatter their lie. Wow. Now here in the preservation section, they're going to try and explain how it stays in perfect condition for hundreds and hundreds of years. But right when the 1950s hit, all of these random natural catastrophes happen. And of course, accidentally damage the clay layers within. Can you believe it? I don't. And to put a nail in this narrative, once and for all, they say this was a clay structure, but workers discovered a mass of stone deep within the mound. This is a stone structure, not a clay structure. And And we are being lied to about this pyramid at every turn, covered by dirt. And the previous civilization's work is hidden in plain sight. I also went to the St. Louis Art Museum, which had the exact same interior layout as the Field Museum in Chicago, which is very strange. We all know these buildings were not built originally to be museums, but honestly, just standing in them makes you feel as if you're in a building created for giants. The doorways are massive. The ceilings are so high, it doesn't make sense for a civilization that is short and struggling through the tough times, and without proper architecture education, and going home to their huts and riding around on donkeys to be constructing massive Greco-Roman buildings, all to just show off some bones that were made in China? That was not the true reason, and we all know this. The view from the top of these pyramids were incredible. Being able to see the city of St. Louis from the top was very cool. And I want to leave you all with this thought. While walking up to the pyramids and just using our knowledge, and with everything else that we know about this topic, it really made me wonder how much bigger underground this pyramid really is. All right, and I don't want to be done yet. We have a short bonus for today. And as a thank you for your support, I want to have some fun and speculate on something with you all. I want to speak about the city of Turkmenistan and just introduce it for everyone that hasn't come across it yet, and also go deeper into the connection between the house of worship and this city. So there was a city named Turkmenistan, and they were supposedly taken over by Russia in the 1800s. The exact timeline that we are talking about here, where the narrative officially begins for our current civilization, in my opinion. Now, if you are new, Russia and Tartaria were the same land on the map. Russia takes over Tartaria, and Russia's flag is showing the man on the horse stabbing Tartaria's flag symbol, the griffin. So Russia is taking over these territories, including Turkmenistan, a place that is so strange. It basically looks straight out of the old world and untouched. The reason I bring this up is because we have this structure in Chicago, and we are seeing that it is all connected and 100% on a worldwide operation. The first house of worship for this group in what is now Turkmenistan. And this is how they're going to introduce all of these exact same looking structures all over the world. And what do you know? The only one that's gone is the one that was in Turkmenistan. What are the odds? So this is where we can go ahead and find even more structures from the past civilization, because they are attempting to bunch them all together to explain them all away. So we are given 8 locations of these structures that are currently standing, and honestly, these remind me exactly like Frederick's Church in Denmark. They look like we're just seeing the top of them, and they are actually so much bigger underground. We are given the one in Wilmette, Illinois, Kampala, Uganda, Sydney, Australia, Langenhain, Germany, Panama City, Panama, and is anyone else seeing what I'm seeing? That they are all in the middle of nowhere? It's very odd. Just like Turkmenistan, where it is literally in the middle of nothing. And in every single picture of this city, there are basically no people. And you have to ask logical questions at this point. Why build massive buildings and structures for nobody? You wouldn't. In my opinion, these buildings were simply found. And there is a lot more to see here in this city. And I'll dedicate a whole episode to this. But to prove the point, Teapapata, Samoa has one as well. In the middle of nowhere. It's just weird. New Delhi, India, same thing. And of course, we have this one in Santiago, Chile. It's weird. They are nowhere near anything. I know some of these were built recently, but the fact of the matter is that they all have consistencies and give us clues. And when you find smoke, there's normally fire. Patterns are extremely important when looking for lies. And that is what we are seeing here. They all have connections to Turkmenistan, and they are all in the middle of nowhere. It's odd to say the least. Are these places sitting on ley lines connected to the Earth's natural power source? Are there tunnels in these locations? We can see that the public blueprints show that this building is bigger than we can see and goes underground. And there is a door at the bottom here, leading to what? These are all over the world, yet hold the same consistencies. Something to think about for sure. Especially when you get the construction story that are basically campfire stories, where some people believe that the building was used to keep a whale alive. Others say the building was a refueling station for captured German submarines. Others say it was for kickboxing and his friend thinks it's for discos. The group that found these buildings holds the keys. And through our research, our questions, and open eyes, we continue to get closer and closer to the truth. where we went into Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and got boots on the ground footage, and learned a lot about this town. And it carried on into episode 42, where we learned all about their tunnel system, and we exposed a ton about this location. And I think this triggered something. On October 9th, 2023, Fox 11 News reported that Oshkosh, Wisconsin had a road construction project going on, where they, for some weird random reason, needed to delay the project. This is when archaeologists were just randomly in the area and working on the site. I'm just gonna ask the AI ChatGPT if archaeologists are normally present during road construction. No, archaeologists are not always present during road construction projects. So we definitely have something weird going on here. And they found an extensive village. Are you ready to see what they found? Did this community that we've built trigger a destruction project in Oshkosh? In my opinion, this is exactly what happened. So they say that the Cultural Resource Management Project has been working with the city since the start of the road resurfacing project. Road resurfacing? They're not building a new road. This is not making any logical sense. A road resurfacing project happens all the time, and you definitely don't need government programs or agencies there, or archaeologists for these small road resurfacing projects. The cultural resource management programs are typically established and enforced by government agencies to protect archaeological, historical, and cultural sites and resources. So are you ready to fully understand what is going on here? Are you ready to see why I think we triggered this? Here we go. Because of the history of the area, the archaeologists already knew that there were archaeological deposits on both sides of the existing road. The old world was there for decades, and they knew this. And now that we have just gone there, they need to cover it up or destroy it. And there was a high likelihood of remnants under the existing road. What kind of remnants would they be talking about? And that's exactly what researchers have found. Unbelievable stuff. We all know that there was a much more advanced civilization that lived here before our current timeline. A civilization that was able to construct the Cologne Cathedral, or the St. Mark's Basilica, and all of these towns, including Oshkosh, that have been hidden from us and explained away by saying that they were just ancients. They were from thousands of years ago. So basically implying to us that we were not supposed to question it, when in reality, this advanced group of people were not here thousands of years ago, and instead, relatively recent. It's a village site, so a place where people lived in the past. Should we continue to see what they found? Remember, they have admitted to already knowing that all of this was here, and they are just now doing something with it. But because they're doing something with it, they have to explain it away with all of this nonsense. I believe, in my opinion, that they are removing anything that could give away the fact that this was not from 1,000 years ago. They are removing all of the things that this community would take and run with. This is shocking stuff. They admit to finding houses. Finding houses? Are you kidding me? Under the dirt? Mud flood, anyone? So what's going on here? There's a considerable amount of cultural items that they also found, as well as cultural materials associated with the places that people would have lived in the past civilization. Can we see this stuff right now on a live stream? No. Do any of us trust these people to share everything that they have found with us? Remember, they knew all of this was here, which is the craziest part. So these people are taking a guess that this civilization was here from the time period of 900 to 1600, which is the exact same time period that we are discussing here. Literally right before the 1800s, a major event took place and wiped the previous civilization out. I'm stunned right now, to be honest with you. It will, of course, all be preserved eventually, once the road resurfacing project resumes. Who here believes that? So this project is going to continue into the spring. So if anyone finds any more information on it, put that in the comments below, or send me something on X. We need to stay on this as a community. This is the past civilization being exposed. And one more thing about this article for now. If they knew this was here, what else are they aware of that we aren't being told about all around the world? Now, we are going to begin with the Milwaukee City Hall. And if you all enjoy it, I will go there and investigate and try to get inside. So just let me know if that's something you'd like to see. I have a few other places that we're going to investigate today, where the mainstream narrative is lying straight to our faces, to knocking that one down and upgrading to this. and seeing evolution hitting us square in the face. I'm glad that once we actually got power tools, the buildings really took off, and the architecture just blew us all away, with perfect 90-degree angles. So let's all have some fun today, and open our eyes even further to the nonsense that we have been told, and reconnect with our hidden past that has been hidden for far too long. As promised, here we are in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we are going to start this episode off with the investigation into the mainstream lie surrounding this Milwaukee City Hall building that was supposedly designed by architect Henry okay. So we have another childish fictional character that the narrator likes to be all weird about, as we have seen so many times before, constantly making names that are inside jokes for middle school kids. Now, of course, due to Milwaukee's historic German immigrant population, many of the surrounding buildings mirror this incredible design. Wow, okay, interesting. So as long as we just have a lot of German people, buildings in the unbelievable Flemish Renaissance Revival style will just magically appear. Did you guys know this? I had no idea this was a thing. But thanks to the mainstream narrative, now we know. We should all give this a try sometime. What a joke. Especially because this was built by a contest winner in the 1800s. Anyone that rode around on a horse or a donkey qualified for the contest in the 1800s. Every single one of them. They all had this kind of architecture embedded into their DNA. There were so many of them that they needed to hold contests all over the world to shed off all of the competition. It's strange though, because once the 1900s hit, not a single person ever had what it took to get one of these buildings completed, which is completely backwards from what we are told. Evolution, I thought. Very strange. Well, let's continue and see if they clear this up for us a little bit. What is this? You gotta be kidding me. Not only are there so many people that can draw up a winning design, there are also two Henrys that are so incredible that they can win this competition. This is another example of the AI generating names. Fake characters all over the place. They create these names that are duplicates, reoccurring, and nobody ever questioned it. Until now. We have shown this many times. I think my favorite example is in episode 43, when they show all of the Fredericks. And I'm gonna get back to this Henry Cobb guy after we're done with this building, because he was a busy character. For this insane narrative, construction began in June of 1892, after the pretend political controversy kicked Henry #1 out for the better option of Henry #2. So the project for the tallest building in the United States of America, reaching a height of nearly 400 feet, begins in June of 1892 and is all wrapped up by Henry #2 in just 3 years, when it is now occupied in 1895. Now let's dive into this and show everyone how insane this fake narrative really is. We are told that cream city brick was used for the exterior of the building. They used limestone, of course, for the decorative elements and ornaments, particularly around the entrance and windows. And then we need to have granite. What would a building in the 1800s be without a massive amount of granite? So that's all great, but how much of these materials would they actually need in order to build the tallest building in the entire USA? We are told that they would need tens of thousands of cream city bricks and could have been in the range of several millions of bricks. Okay, right. And several hundred to several thousand cubic feet of limestone, and in the range of hundreds of cubic feet to over 1,000 cubic feet of granite. In order for the narrative to be logistically possible, we need all of these answers. So let's use their tool against them again, an AI ChatGPT. Let's see how long it would take the materials to get to the site in 1895, and see if this is logistically possible for Henry #2 to get this thing constructed in 3 years. The cream city brick is strange in itself, as they have ended all production of it since 1920, so we are told. Now, in my opinion, this brick was from the past civilization, and this is why the mainstream narrative has to explain it somehow, and say that we have been unable to recreate it for over 100 years, when in reality, our civilization has never been able to create the cream city brick. Now, it's all over Milwaukee, so they say that it was sourced in Milwaukee. For the sake of argument, let's just go with it for a minute. Saying that it would take a few weeks to a couple months to produce several millions, which we were told earlier, of cream brick, and transport it to the site. A couple weeks to produce this cream brick in the 1800s. But we can't do it anymore? Do you find that odd? I do. So then we have the limestone, which would take several months to a year or more. to extract the several thousands of cubic feet of limestone and transport it to the site. Remember, the entire 400-foot building, we were told, was constructed in 3 years. There is zero room for error here in this insane mainstream narrative timeline. Now we have the granite, which they told us Henry II would require over 1,000 cubic feet of. This would take several months to a year to get it all to the site in the 1800s. So just getting all of these materials to the site would be wrapped up in, let's say, a year in this supposed timeline. If everything went perfect, which we are fully aware at this point that this was always the case before we came along. There was never an issue for the horse and wagon community. And Henry can't build this thing himself in 2 years, once all the materials get there. So of course, he's going to need some construction workers, which we are never told about for some weird reason. But let's see what this would have looked like if the mainstream narrative ever told us the full truth. We would need skilled craftsmen, laborers, supervisors and engineers, specialized trades such as blacksmiths, glass workers, and artists. Then you have the equipment operators and support staff, such as, clerks and accountants, to make sure we don't go flying over the budget, and for proper documentation. Now, we have called the Illinois State Archives in episode 44, and we have proven that they do not keep records on these buildings. So what's going on here? Why aren't any of these extremely important people ever mentioned in the narrative? We are always given some magical architect, and in this case, multiple architects, both named Henry, but never anything else. Never a great artist, never an incredible engineer, and never a mention of any bookkeeper. You would think that one narrative would mention it, since these buildings are all incredible and still standing. And in this case, we have a building that was the tallest in the entire USA. Yet their website gives us none of this, and we are supposed to just accept it blindly. How about no? We are not just sitting around accepting the lie anymore. Let's ask their tool how long this would actually take. It should say 3 years, since that is how long we are told that it took. But if you follow actual logistics, following real construction protocol, and not fairy tale nonsense that we have been told, then you are going to get a very different answer. A much more honest answer, a much more logistical answer. And here we go. After everything that we have discussed, and also adding in that there are seasonal factors, Milwaukee weather is not the greatest for construction project in the winters. Work might have been suspended or slowed down during the winter months. Okay, so they most likely built it in less than 3 years because of the winter months. Interesting. Using actual logistics, asking real questions that need to be answered. Let's see who the AI chat GPT agrees with. The mainstream history that we have been force-fed all of our lives, or us, asking real logistical questions. Given these considerations, a realistic timeline for the construction of the Milwaukee City Hall in the late 19th century might have been around 5 to 7 years. And there we have it. Not even close to the 3-year mark. In fact, it is more realistic that it would have taken twice as long. Wow. We have done this a few times now where we ask the ChatGPT questions like this. And it becomes clearer and clearer that none of these buildings were ever built in less than 5 years. And the fact that this is what we're told gives it all away. That this is impossible. And that we are most likely spot on. That a previous, much more advanced civilization with incredible tools, and they did not ride around on horses and wagons, were the true builders of these old world structures. And our civilization is a bunch of founders that claimed these buildings as our own. I don't think that the narrator ever thought that we would go through these narratives, dissecting them down to the smallest detail, asking questions that need to be answered for it to be true. It's incredible, all over the world. And I love that we are all seeing the truth now. This is a growing community by the day, because once you see it, you don't go back to unseeing it. The massive growth is proving that the lie is drowning, and we have had enough of it. We are finding the truth about our past, and the truth that this place that we live is incredible. It's filled with perfection, and we have been distracted from it for far too long. When you walk down the street, you will now see the previous civilization's work in your city, because they are honestly everywhere, and they deserve our attention. Henry Cobb, the first Henry that we were given, is a character that needs to be covered. Here we are given a list of buildings that Cobb is credited with knocking out over 100 years ago. There is one specifically that caught my eye, and that is the Chicago Federal Building. And let's take a look at this picture for a minute. We have shown this type of nonsense before, so let's do it again. They show this fake wagon sitting on the dirt road with more people that are identical next to each other in white. These are not real people. They are all photoshopped. If we zoom in on it, you can clearly see that they are duplicates. They are copy-pasted. And the other one is all glitched out. And who just stands in the middle of a road anyway? None of it fits in. You have a massive building, yet you have horse and wagon, and you have dirt roads. If it rains, the dirt is going to become so wet, and you will not be moving any limestone. Yet this was never an issue for the mainstream narrative. The dirt is always looking like it had just been raked and perfected for the photo. There's a dirt road down the street from my house, and they have to fix that thing all the time. Otherwise, there's massive holes in it. There are no holes in this picture. It's a perfect dirt road. I'm at the point where I'm gonna say that this was prepared for the photo in our new civilization. The dirt is sitting on top of the past civilization's work. These buildings are under the dirt. They are much bigger than we can see. This is not the original road. It's all backwards. The road always comes first in construction because you need to be able to access the construction site. This is obvious stuff that the narrative ignores. Like we said, getting the materials there and the machinery would be nearly impossible with dirt roads and donkeys and wagons. If it snows or rains, then just forget about it. Other than a few fake people, a couple fake wagons and a light post, this is in Chicago. And we all know that Shalaga is not abandoned. There are literally no people in this photo. My point is that if this is true, that these are Photoshop people in wagons, which is looking more and more clear that this is the case, then was this the very first picture of this building for our current civilization to see? It's strange, especially when we hear the story about the building. The Chicago Federal Building. Look at the size of this thing. Constructed in just 7 years, of course. Well, I guess that's better than the last story, but come on. After 7 years, they still couldn't throw a road down? It's weird. And what is this? The 1905 building was demolished in 1965, only 50 years after its construction, and replaced by the Kluck-Ziske Federal Building. Are they joking? This building was outdated after 50 years? Oh, and here's the Kluck-Ziske building that is just bursting with architecture and incredible craftsmanship that our civilization is known for. The perfection of the 90-degree angles is just amazing. I don't even know how we pulled this kind of building off. I'm sure we needed many contests for this building. The winner was a pure genius, one of a kind. And all right, you get the point, that this thing is pathetic. I think that any one of us could have drawn this piece of trash up when we were 5. It's an embarrassment. And to knock down the brand new Chicago Federal Building for this is insane. Obviously, the Chicago Federal Building was not constructed by our civilization's timeline and was not brand new. And it also did not need to be replaced. And should we absolutely shred this nonsense? I honestly can't wait to say what I'm about to say. Here we go. The original Chicago Federal Building, with all of its incredible detail and architecture, we can see that it was obviously incredible. We don't need to ask anyone. And we see the difference between the old world's construction and our pathetic nonsense. Now, if we are a civilization of advancement and the mainstream science and narrative is true, then we would be evolving. Everything would be advancing, as they like to tell us we are. But we all know the narrative just told us it only took 7 years to construct the Chicago Federal Building with a bunch of people that rode around on horses and wagons and no roads. So to construct this new piece of trash that was built with 0 ounces of stone that you don't need to transport from a quarry, this thing better have gotten done in like 6 months or less. So let's see how long. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. 14 years to build this box? So when we can all see the construction, it takes 14 years. But when we aren't around to see it and can't verify the dates, it's done in like 3 years or 7 years, in less than half of the time, and done with so much more artistic detail. This point alone should get everyone in the world to shake their heads at what we have been shown in our education system. How much clearer could it get that our history is a complete lie? This is insane when you really think about it. It's shocking. Now, we all understand that none of these buildings were constructed in less than 5 years. So when we dive deeper and are told that St. Andrew's Catholic Church, located in Virginia, was constructed in less than 2 years in 1900 to 1902, when this was their way of transportation, we know that there's something off with the mainstream narrative. And this is when you can go deeper. And we find an incredible construction photo. Are you all ready to see it? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. This building is done. That is not a construction photo. That is a completion photo. And this photo is coming directly from the church's website. Now I'm gonna show you how they do this, how they get away with using the same architect for so many old world buildings. This way they don't need to make a million characters. They find buildings that look similar, and then they use the same guy. And it doesn't even matter what state they're in. And we have shown this before. But this time it is unbelievable how many they try to get away with. So let's go find William P. Ginther, and we have found him. And we know this is the same guy because in the middle of the 113 old world buildings that are of the previous civilization's work that they are pinning on this guy, we have the St. Andrew's Church in Virginia. So this is definitely an interesting character. And very interesting that they wouldn't allow us to just click on his name. Let's take a look at a few of these buildings. And I'm sure we're gonna see a pattern that they are all incredible, with perfect architecture. Exactly like the Kuczynski building in Chicago. Just amazing. Oh, I mean, nothing like that. So let's just pick a random one and start with it. How about the St. Philip's Church in Craftsman, Pennsylvania? Okay, well, I think we can see where this is headed already. And to prove my point, let's go right on their website and see the detailed construction story. All of the details will be given that we need in order to fully trust them. So in 1898, a young priest came to St. Philip. His name was William, of course, because they have to repeat names. Because who else is named William? The architect. Well, let's continue. Between 1898 and 1953, Father William undertook a complete renewal and rebuilding program. So let's get this straight. 1898, this guy comes in and starts the renewal and rebuilding program. We all understand what renewal and rebuilding means, right? It means that there has to be something there already. Are they literally admitting that they did not construct this building right here? And they are taking credit for how it looks today by just calling it a rebuilding program? And this is embarrassing for them. I'm not trying to make fun of them, but come on. This is on their website. They say William number 2 is build of stone in cruciform design. Is build of stone? Let's get that corrected. St. Philip Catholic Parish in Pennsylvania. Let's throw a few more of these buildings on the screen and see what we've got from William number 2 and his master skills just for fun. Let's see what he's got going on all the way in California, since it's nowhere near Virginia and would be insane to have multiple projects like this going on at the exact same time in the 1800s. So let's check this one out. Santa Clara Parish in Oxnard, California. Okay, very interesting. Let's take a look at the inside. And of course, this is insane. Still standing today. And as long as it's left alone, it will be there forever. And so will all of the old world buildings. They are all built with perfection. Let's see a few more from William number 2. Let's take a look at Mother of Sorrows Church and Rectory, located in Ashtabula, Ohio. Oh, right. So we have ourselves a castle. This is unbelievable. I'm gonna make an entire episode on this guy. It seems too weird to me that he is credited with all of these structures that are clearly not built by our civilization. There's definitely something off about all of these buildings. And I wonder how many Williams we could find hidden within these 113 buildings that are pinned to him. That might be fun to keep a running tally. I'm gonna wrap this episode up right here. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. I will be back very soon with much more. See ya.